Welcome, lovers of the dead. I have very good news for you. In Season 9, they're nerfing Overpower dramatically. 80% damage gone. Bloodwave, Bloodlands, Blood Surge, and the Bloody Bone Spear. All of them going vastly down in power. And this means it's finally time for minions to rise and be amazing. Now let's not get it twisted. Bloodwave will still be amazing. And there's a simple reason for this, because they're also trashing Soulrift. Now, we'll talk about all of these things in a second, but I want to present you the best piece of news first. And that would be our new unique item, the Hand of Naz. They're going to be gloves, and they give you Skeletal Mage damage, attack speed, maximum life, and then ranks to Skeletal Mage Mastery. Sacrificing both Warriors and Golem grants an additional Skeletal Mage for each minion sacrificed. Each minion sacrificed in this case means if you update their number by 2, or if you would move this to the emulate by +3, we would get our 6 mages. And since then we're sacrificing 6 or 7 warriors, that also gets added on top of our mages. And since it says for each minion sacrificed, it's +1 for the golem as well. Finally, we can have an army of mages. And if they attack 25 times in a row, they turn into arc mages. The Skeletal Archmages teleport to safety when attacked. This one we're probably going to have them remove, because this effect is completely useless. Your minions are strong enough to not die anyways. This is like DPS minus. And their attacks occasionally shadow on impact, dealing 100% increased damage to the target and up to 3 additional targets. Interesting part is, if you then have men down and them hit away, and a lot of them hitting away, plus then their bonus explosion attack, we finally have minions do quite some area damage. That's cool. And hell, since we're going to be playing Shadow Mages, we can also sacrifice our Reapers for more shadow damage. Awesome. This is going to be very good. But now to the problematic thing, to the sad part. Because I said they nerfed Overpower, yes, but they also nerfed Soulrift. And the Soulrift nerf is quite significant. Right now, Soulrift gives us Vulnerable, Barrier. It gives us 75% bonus damage. Soulrift is actually broken. What they're doing is, Soulrift no longer grounds Barrier, and damage from Prime Soulrift reduced from 75 to 15%. The only reason to play Soulrift now is to kind of gain essence, slight damage boost, and make enemies vulnerable. But that's it, and that's not enough. Minion Necro used to use Soulrift. Actually, almost every single Necromancer but Bloodwave used to use Soulrift. Now, it almost might be better to just play Bloodwave and get a 20% damage reduction. Or in this case, return back to the Bone Storm with the aspect of shielding. Both of these options I don't like. Technically, we could rely on Necrotic Fortitude. It's a 15% chance to get Barrier, but we all know that doesn't work. Good news though, we get Borrowed Power again in Season 9, so the Horadric spells. And one of these spells is called Astral Pillar. Shape an ethereal column that taunts for 3 seconds. Piercing waves flow from it and deal damage until you create another one or move too far away. Has a cooldown of 7 seconds. Every 7 seconds, I can taunt every enemy for 3 seconds. That's already good. The taunted enemies become vulnerable and move faster. Double good. And it has lucky hit chance. Not done yet, because these spells, they can get infusions and they can get Arcana. And the Arcana is where it gets interesting. Bottled Wind. Invoking your catalyst grants a barrier equal to 30% of your maximum life for 4 seconds. After it dissipates, its essence is bottled back up again, +4 each rank. Whatever that actually means. Let's look at the spell again. Every 7 seconds, we're going to taunt for 3 seconds, and then for 4 seconds, we're also getting a barrier. That would only leave us 3 seconds without barrier, that we would then have to not die, mitigate with lucky hit, or see if there's an Arcana to reduce cooldown, or prolong the duration. That being said, the Propulsion spell, generate a mana blast that delivers damage and knockbacks all foes, okay, has at level 20 a cooldown of 4.3 seconds, or 5.3 seconds for disintegrate. There are spells to truly make this work. We don't even know if the Astral Pillar actually gets cooldown reduction as well on a higher rank. Now, there's no Arcana that can reduce your cooldown, but we're getting these new jewels. And one of these jewels, if we're scrolling down, says Luminate Eye. Your catalytic skills gain another 25% cooldown reduction. With this in tow, and the Barrier Arcana, plus the 4.3 second spell, I will permanently be buried up at any given point. The only issue is that it doesn't instantly replenish, like if I would spam cast things and get like Barrier. Still, it is an option to not feel vulnerable. And let's not forget that we can actually get completely unstoppable with our catalyst forever. So we don't actually have to care about getting frozen and then being stuck and then dying or feared and whatsoever. Nah. We can become permanently unstoppable. This solves tons of problems for the Necro. We used to have the Soulrift for Barrier, and we used to only have the Golem or Blood Mist to kind of become unstoppable. But that's obviously not an option because the Golem is gone. We're sacrificing him for Skeletal Mages. And the Blood Mist is actually not really being played. I can't remember a single build who actually has Blood Mist still in there. Either you're going to have like 6 Shadow Skills to scale your damage for your Bloodwave, or you're going to be actually using something useful that you use. That being said, if we're now playing a minion build and the Golem is gone, we might be playing Army of the Dead, then with Blight, Corpse Tendrils, and we still had the Reap in there to actually refill some essence and give us more shadow damage because of the shadow damage multiplier. We could either now pull another shadow skill in, like for example, Corpse Explosion 2, to then boost our Skeletal Mages, or maybe start playing something like Bone Prison, potentially keeping enemies away from us, since they're also reworking some aspects. For example, Swelling Curse. Your bone skills now deal shadow damage, and enemies take 25% increased shadow damage after being hit with a bone skill. We're playing Shadow Mages. We mainly do shadow damage. We hit enemies with blind. Maybe a bonus bone skill inside there? Probably not. But wait, there is more. Coldbringers. Time between Blizzard casts reduced from 6 to 4 seconds. The Coldbringers aspect makes your mages cast Blizzard. Okay, well, the thing is, I have 5 mages, 6 if I put it on an amulet, and then I get another 7 mages on top. So now I'm having 13 mages casting Blizzards. And they're also buffing the Bloodless Scream. This is the Scythe that has your Darkness skill chill enemies for up to 100% and deal 200% increased damage to frozen enemies. That one was always a little bit weird. And then your Darkness skills have a chance to also restore essence. This is now different. It says your Darkness skills chill enemies for up to 100% and deal 200% increased damage to frozen enemies and bosses. I wonder if this 200% bonus damage to bosses would also apply to my minions, considering it says my Darkness skills. Minions are not a Darkness skill per se, the Ray Skeleton, but they're Shadow Mages, which do shadow damage, and my Darkness skills deal more shadow damage. So could this work? Considering that we then play the Blizzard aspect and anyways freeze everyone. Plus, every 800 times you damage enemies with Darkness skills, all nearby enemies are feared for seconds before freezing for 3 more seconds. Fear is obviously useless, but it would build up a nice amount of stagger. And every 800 times, I mean, if my Skeletal Mages are blasting away 13 of them, a little bonus stagger never hurts. By the way, coming back to Bloodwave, we mentioned that 80% damage nerf to Overpower. That wasn't actually all of it. Because in the Bloodbath board, you're going from 100% bonus Overpower damage down to 40%. And our key passive Rathma's Vigor is also giving you only 100% overpower damage. They're really bringing it down a notch. That being said, my Bloodwave build with base equipment, 10, 20, 30, 40, and with good equipment, hundreds of billions of damage. I truly still believe that Bloodwave is going to be the way to play for easy progress. The simple reason is, get to Torment 1, get yourself the pants, not the Bloodmoon breaches, the actual Cassami's Legacy, stack your life up, and then instantly start blasting things with Bloodwave. It will just not be the damage hike, the hitch, the whoa that you're used to. Yet there is going to be still a significant boost. What about the bonus basic damage on Reap, Hemorrhage, Decompose, Enhanced Decompose, Bone Splinters? Is that going to do anything for Necro? No, not at all. Technically, a Bone Splinter buff also boosts the Path of Trag'Oul boots. that we're using in bone skills. Since you're going to put down the bone prison is going to shoot out splinters, and splinters now do more damage. What I would like to know is if you're playing the Path of Trag'Oul and the bone splinters are shooting out, and you're playing the aspect of the Swelling Curse, your bone skills now deal shadow damage instead of physical, and enemies take bonus shadow damage after being hit with a bone skill. Now, bone splinters are a bone skill, but you're not casting them. It also doesn't say you have to cast them. It says they just have to get hit by a bone skill. So if I play Bone Prison and the Path of Trag'Oul, I could technically hit them with the splinters. Interesting. Increase your maximum essence by 2 for 10 seconds for each time these bone splinters hit an enemy. They changed the aspect of adaptability. It used to just give you 100% bonus damage to your basic skills when used at or above 50% maximum resource, okay? Now it says basic skills generate 5 additional primary resource, once per skill. Basic skills deal 0.6 increased damage for each point of primary resource you have. Now technically this was 100% damage, right? That was it. It could never deal more. This is already going to start at 60% damage. If I now have a 200 essence globe, it's going to be 120% damage. I have a 300 essence globe, and so on. Technically, you could scale your basic skill further up. Obviously, that doesn't make much sense because usually we don't use essence resource as a basic skill. Unless you would use the Shard of Varathiel, which now has your basic skills deal increased damage. It's nerfed to 150%, and they cost 25 primary resource. Technically, we could use up a resource with a shard and then have more resource with the adaptability to kind of get a lot more damage. Probably not on bone splinters, but maybe on Reeb. Very maybe. This would also factor in the Crown of Lucian, which makes your resource cost higher, but also gives you 75% bonus damage. I'm not saying there's a build. I'm just pointing out what maybe in a far-fetched future could be something in Season 9 possible. What I'm really excited for is just playing Skeletal Mage Blasters. And for this, we'll just have to make ourselves as tanky as possible, walk in front of our minions, Reeb, maybe Bone Prison to cage them in, definitely keep ourselves alive. And we could spam Blood Mist, or we could make this then a mage, Skeleton Mage Infinimist version, somewhat. So we're not being attacked. The problem is if you're Blood Misting around, your minions often stop attacking. So that's a bit of an oomph. And if your minions get attacked, they would currently teleport away. Which again, doesn't make any sense at all because your skeletons are going to be so tanky that they'll never die. It might actually be that we're simply using a Bloodwave with a low cooldown to push enemies away. It does sound a little bit stupid, but since this provides us with a easy 20% damage reduction and blood orbs we could pick up for blood baguettes for 50% damage multiplier on our minions, spamming Bloodwave might not be the worst option, as Army of the Dead is kind of dead for a mage build, and Soulrift is not an option, and Bone Storm always feels kind of What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? This is the build I 100% want to make in Season 9. So Blizzard reeled me in. They gave me a minion unique. I'll obviously want to do it. I mean, there's no questions asked if we're going to do it. Hand of Nas and send it. Minions are also not affected by the Overpower Nerf, which is good. Yes, sure, the Zen rune is now less efficient for minions, but it was also never the super part of our damage. It was just boosting the damage further. I could do 30 billion hits with crits. I didn't actually need the Zen rune. Now tell me in the comments below how you feel about Necromancer in Season 9 and if you're actually going to give it a try or not, and generally how you feel about Season 9. And if you're looking to still enjoy Season 8, there's 2 Necro builds for you to enjoy. Have a good time. Take care.